Disc Golf Chris here, and this is my 2020 In the Bag Winter Edition. In the winter, I like to go minimalist, carry a consolidated bag, smaller and lightweight. I know a lot of people like to carry a large bag with lots of storage for things like gloves, hats, and whatnot, but I'm already wearing a lot, multiple layers in the winter, which can get heavy, so I like to use a lighter weight bag. This is my nutsack bag. If you want a good small bag, you could grab something like the Infinite Discs Slinger bag. That would make a great over-the-shoulder winter bag. This disc lineup is made specifically for cold weather, definitely 40 degrees and below, probably even freezing temperatures and below. Anything above that, I might still use my regular bag. It's my regular disc line is pretty versatile. This is also made for more wind. We play in Michigan and we get some cold weathers with a lot of changing winds, big wind gusts. So start off, one of my core discs here. This is my main winter putter. This is the above ground level Manzanita. I've been throwing the Element Discs Iridium for multiple years, and I believe this is actually the same mold with Element Discs no longer producing molding discs. Above ground level started making that into the Manzanita. Excellent putter for the winter. One, because it's got great grip, especially if there's snow or moisture out there. The plastic is still fairly grippy. It's got a thumb track that I can grab. The plastic, this is base plastic, but it's a really nice plastic for base plastic. It does get harder and a little more overstable in the cold, but it doesn't get as rock hard as some of the other plastics. It's also an overstable and low glide putter. So low glide helps keep it controllable, but it is a little bit more versatile than something super overstable. And if I know it's going to be gusty, I might pull out something like I've used Dynamic Disc Slammer, which I think that's also out of print. The Splinter from Obsidian discs, that's really overstable. If I know it's going to be wet and a real bad day, I might pull that. But this is my #1 putter for the winter. I also carry a Discraft Jawbreaker Roach. This is my main putter all year round, and I do love Jawbreaker in the winter. Jawbreaker gets a little bit harder, but it still maintains its grip and a little bit of flexibility. But with as much wind as we get, I typically putt with the Manzanita in the winter, and I will putt with a Roach or maybe throw it if the wind is a little bit lighter. Next up, I've got a Innova Wolf, again, base plastic. The base plastic does get pretty hard in the winter, but I don't like the translucent Z and Champion type plastic, so I like to go with the base plastic. The Wolf, again, it has a thumb track around it, so it's great for gripping. The Wolf is an interesting one because it's a lower glide mid-range, but it's also understable. So the lower glide helps control it in the wind, and being that it's overstable, it'll stable up a little bit in the cold weathers, but not terribly. So understable, but still consistent. And I can even use this for long putts, especially in the winter. You know, a good 80, 90 foot putt. I can do a jump putt with a Wolf, and it's decent. Moving up, I've got a Discraft base plastic Zombie Pro-D. This is actually in place of the other mid-ranges. I usually throw a Buzz during the normal season, but with extra wind in the winter, I like to move up to a little bit more of a control driver. The base plastic, as I said, hardens up in the winter, so this becomes a little bit more overstable. It just gives you a little bit extra control with the wind. I, of course, lose the advantage of the soft straight fade of mid-range, but for me, the extra consistency in the winter is worth it. One thing to note is that if you like Kastaplast Kaxe in K2 is an excellent winter disc. I had thrown that for a couple of years. The reason I ended up going with the Zombie is because it's a little bit wider diameter and I like the S-curve, whereas the Kaxe is a little bit more straight, a little bit faster. But the K2 is very flexible, so it's a great winter plastic, but the grip is also not phenomenal when it gets wet, so you need to make sure you dry it off real well. That's it for mid-range and short distance. Then I go into a Discraft ESP FLX XL. This is a very high glide disc, very flexible and understable. And as the temperatures drop, it hardens up and becomes straighter, but it's also very versatile. The thing I've got to be careful of here, well, one, it's white, so if I throw it in the snow, then I probably won't find it again. So once I get snow, I typically pull this out and throw something else in. but also because it's such high glide and understable, if I get a lot of wind, I can't be throwing it on long anhyzer shots. This is more for a shorter controlled shot at like 325 where I can see it the whole way. Then I've got a Discraft Z FLX Undertaker. This one is great because, again, high glide. It's more overstable than the XL and a little bit faster, so it gives me some more options for distance. And again, the Z FLX, the flexible plastic is great, hardens up a little bit, good grip. This one also is not great grip when it gets wet, so I really need to be careful of wiping this off, especially if I get snow on it. But this is another one of my staples in the winter. It allows me just a little bit of turn when I need it. Otherwise, it's usually pretty dead straight for most throws. I also carry a Pro-D Crush. This crush has broken in and it's a little bit flippier, and when it gets cold, this does become very overstable. Because it's base plastic and the crush is, I want to say it's about a 4.5 to 5 glide. The glide on this actually decreases in the winter, so this is a good control driver for the wind. There is a lot of overlap with the Undertaker, but this will cut through a headwind a little bit better. The base plastic gives me a little bit extra grip when it's wet. And I usually carry 4 different crushes with me. My Z Crush is a great one if the temperature is, 30s, maybe a little bit above that, but the Z Crush gets very, very hard and overstable. It almost hurts to throw it when temperatures get down into the 20 degrees. Next is a newer one, Discraft Hades. Obviously this wasn't out last year, so this will be a good experiment for the winter. The Hades long disc with tons of glide, and it flips up very nicely. I don't know how this is going to throw in the winter yet. I've never thrown it in the cold, but I'm predicting that this will be a very controllable, understable driver. Don't know what it's going to be like in the heavy winter wind, but we'll find out and I'll report back. And then my longest driver is a Star Excalibur. This one's pretty well beat in. The trouble with using an Excalibur in the cold is obviously it gets hard and more overstable, and Excaliburs are very overstable, but this one's been seasoned for about 6 or 7 years. You can see it's pretty well broken in. Top hasn't puddled completely, but this one's got a lot of glide on it, so this will be one of my long distance discs, and because it's so overstable, it's very consistent and it will help out with the winter wind coming through. So hope you can get out there and throw during the winter. Don't let those cold temperatures scare you. Just bundle up. And one thing to remember is make sure you leave your discs in your car or in your garage. Don't keep your discs at room temperature and go out and throw in the snow, because you know what happens if your disc is warm and you toss it in the snow. It will melt the snow around it, and then you pull it up and then the water will freeze on it, so you get an icy disc. So wipe off your discs, try to keep them a little bit colder, and keep throwing.